In order to advance our discussion regarding the future of education programs in Wisconsin, I'm happy to welcome, I would like to invite Vice President Henderson to introduce our guests who will deliver a presentation on an innovative teacher training program from the University of Texas at Austin. Would you please introduce our guests?
Well, I'm very pleased to introduce our two guest speakers for this presentation today on a national model for teacher training in STEM disciplines. Dr. Ann Rankin currently serves as the Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs at the University of Maryland College Park. Dr. Rankin was Dean of the College of Natural Sciences at the University of Texas at Austin when she led the development of an innovative program called UTeach to attract science, math, and computer science majors in her college to this program and to the field of teaching. She provided dynamic leadership for this program in the college and subsequently became the CEO of the National Math and Science Initiative, where she now serves on the board of directors. Provost Rankin is a member of the National Academy of Arts and Sciences, as well as being a genuinely nice person. I also want to introduce Dr. Michael Marder, Executive Director of UTeach and Professor of Physics at the University of Texas at Austin. He supervised the development of the UTeach program as coordinator in the College of Natural Sciences since 1998 and helped oversee national expansion through the development of the UTeach Institute since 2006. His specialty in physics is condensed matter theory with an emphasis on the physics of fracture, and he currently is the chair of the American Physical Society Panel on Public Affairs. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you both being here, and we look forward to your presentation.
Well, thanks, Jim, very much. We really appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to tell you about a program that we both love. The UTeach program, as Jim said, was established more than 20 years ago now at the University of Texas when I was a new dean, actually, of science. And it was really, let me see if I can work this. It was really meant to create a program that was different, a teacher training program that would attract strong math and science students, majors in our college, in the College of Natural Sciences, to consider teaching as a profession and actually train them in ways that would capture their interest, keep their interest, and also teach them to be very effective math and science teachers, teaching with project-based instruction, inquiry-based teaching techniques, experiential learning, all the things that we knew from research were the most effective ways to teach math and science, but were not necessarily the ways teachers were being trained at the time. We felt that the very best math and science teachers we could produce would be produced from very strong students in math and science, but those trained with the very best pedagogy as well. And so that's what we were after in this program. So the students took a full degree in math or science. They could go on to graduate school or whatever they might otherwise want to do with this degree. But adding to that was a pedagogy curriculum that was actually quite flexible in terms of how to incorporate it into their normal program. So let me just tell you, what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about how the program is structured and some of the elements that we consider to be critical for its ultimate success, and then a little bit about the statistics that we think show that it is a very successful program, and then ask Michael to talk about this national replication, which happened almost without our understanding it to begin with, and has been going on also for now about 10 years of the 21 years of the UTeach program's life. Excuse me. I wonder if there's some water. So the elements of success in the program, I'm going to just list them and then come back and tell you a little bit about each one of them. But the course begins with two recruitment courses. The course of study begins with two recruitment courses, 1-hour courses where students are actually guided and go out into first elementary school and then middle school to actually do teaching under guidance and with reflection under the guidance of master teachers, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment. They experience teaching, and this is actually has turned out to be a very important element of recruitment of students into teaching as a profession. Once you experience teaching and are successful at it, especially in an elementary school classroom, it turns out you find out how much fun teaching can be, how rewarding it can be. And you also then use that as part of your learning structure in this program. The program includes early and continuous field experiences teaching in public school classrooms of various sorts, and we'll come back to that too. Master teachers who are experienced public school teachers guiding at every step of the way in the pedagogy courses. These courses can be incorporated into a normal 4-year degree plan, so students can graduate in 4 years, taking 15 hours at least a semester, but with teaching certification, so they don't sacrifice any time in their degree. The pedagogy courses are based on the best research in how students learn most effectively in math and science. It is a collaboration between the College of Education and the College of Science, where most places where it's being replicated, and certainly at UT Austin. And we follow, once the students have graduated, at least at UT Austin, we followed it with support for new teachers by our master teachers, which we call Induction Support, which was also very important in getting our graduates established as successful teachers. So this I'd like to walk really quickly through the curriculum, and particularly the pedagogy curriculum, which is what is added to the normal math and science curriculum. So we have in these 3 circles, the sort of blue-green, the core curriculum and general education stuff that all students have to take. The big disc there are the major courses in math and science, which they take, and there's very little compromise there for most majors. And then the UTeach courses, which are approximately 20 to 24 semester credit hours that are added to the major curriculum. So the first 2 courses are the 2 step courses, which are 1-hour courses, first in elementary and then in middle school classrooms. If they take this over 4 years, they take this in their freshman year. Students across the college who are interested in STEM are invited to try teaching by taking these courses. They get the tuition paid or the stipend paid for taking these courses, so it's sort of free to them. And then they move into the rest of the pedagogy curriculum, a course that teaches them about how students learn most effectively, knowing and learning, and then classroom interactions, a course in project-based instruction, all of this teaching them how to use inquiry and projects to teach students most effectively. They go through a preliminary portfolio analysis and then do apprentice teaching. In addition, they take various other courses, including a research methods course, perspectives in math and science, which is philosophy of science, and then a course that the math majors take in functions and modeling, but the science majors don't need to take that. So it's 24 to 30 hours, I should say, of these professional courses. The field experiences are circled here in red, and then of course the apprentice teaching is in the field as well. The First two courses really provide active recruitment. They're very effective, as I said, in recruiting, allowing the students to try out teaching at no cost. The master teachers are the secret ingredient in this whole thing. They are so important. They actually are experienced, successful former high school or middle school teachers, as I said. They're employed as clinical faculty at the university, and they help teach, they either teach or co-teach all the field-based courses. And they are incredibly important as guides, as mentors. They share experiences from the real world. They share tricks. They're just, and then actually they are also the ones that go out and provide induction support after the students have graduated and are getting established as new teachers. The collaborations are both between the College of Ed and the College of Natural Sciences, and also with other colleges and mentor teachers and others from the local school districts. So the school districts are very important partners with us as well in every case. And as I say, we also provide induction support once they've graduated. And let me just show you some statistics. These are the enrollment figures over all the years of UTeach's existence in Austin, at UT Austin. Michael will show you some data in a moment from the replication sites. But as you see, we now have a steady state of about 400 students in the program. These are the total number of graduates. So we're over 1,000, whatever that is, I can't even read it, but something like 1,000 overall graduates over the course of the existence of the program. But this is what I really wanted to show you. These are the percentages that have entered teaching from each of those graduate classes. So most of the students who enter the program, formally enter it into past the step courses, actually, when they graduate, do go out into the workforce and become teachers, even though they could take their degree in many different directions. So about on average, about 86% of them do enter teaching. These are the ones that are still in teaching from all these graduating classes. So look, for over 5 years, about 80% of them are still in teaching. For most other programs, this number is vastly lower. But even from the earliest days, we still have about 50% of them in teaching. So this is a big mark, I think, of success. We've also been asked over and over again about whether or not we can show that our graduates actually are better teachers. Does their teaching result in more student learning? This was always a very difficult analysis to do, but now an independent group, AIR, has done an analysis of this in Texas and has actually shown that, in fact, the UTeach graduates are more effective than other teachers, adding about 4 months to learning in a math curriculum and 5.7 months on average in science curriculum. These are very hard data to get and hard to show. We have done other analyses of our own that show similar results. And Michael Marder can tell you more about that than I, because he's been very involved in this. So Mike, you want to just say a word or two about this?
Well, I think I can't add very much to what you just said. These are very hard data to get, and I think all of you have probably experienced questions about the value that the university adds, and to attempt to prove that students really know more after they come out than they did when they went in, and that there aren't more cost-effective ways to achieve the same results. Here's an instance where we've gone head-to-head with alternative providers coming in a commercial model, trying to do things at much lower cost, and we're able to document in several different places that students learn more from our graduates and our teachers stay longer.
So with this kind of success, we were getting 10 years or so ago a great deal of attention from across the country, people wanting to replicate the program or replicate parts of it. This took the form ultimately of the formation of the National Math and Science Initiative with a great deal of support, about $125 million from ExxonMobil. And we became one of the 2 programs that National Math and Science Initiative chose to replicate with that funding. So we issued an RFP, got a number of different major universities, including UC Berkeley, University of Colorado, University of Kansas, and others, as well as some smaller institutions, to apply for the funding, and we at that time established an entity to help produce the replication and guide the replications. So I guess I forgot, we had this little summary here, but let me just summarize. So we're getting about 70 graduates per year from the UT Austin program. About 86% enter teaching. As I said, 80% begin teaching and are still in schools 5 years later. 50% of these kids teach in schools with the majority of economically disadvantaged students. 30% of the students in the program are underrepresented minorities, and 43% of the graduates are. So these are really extraordinarily wonderful statistics, I think. And as I say, the UTeach Institute was established about 10 years ago, 2009, I think, to help guide this interest in replication and focusing on these elements of success, which I mentioned earlier, trying to make sure that all the replication programs included these elements that we considered to be essential for success. University of Maryland is one of the replication sites, one of the most recent ones. I've been there as provost just about 5.5 years, and about 4.5 years ago, we established Terrapin teachers at Maryland. But this is happening all over the country. There are about 45 different sites. And I'm going to ask Michael to come and tell you about that endeavor, which has been another really extraordinary journey.
There's a shortage of STEM teachers across the country, and there are many ways to look at it. I'm from physics, so I look at the chance that children across the country have to take physics. The United States is anomalous. Less than 40% of our high school students graduate having taken even 1 year of physics. And if you look around the country, you'll find cases where states have trouble offering physics even in half the high schools. Wisconsin's actually on the high side. Texas and Wisconsin are fairly similar. But even if 80% of high schools offer physics, that means that 20% of the schools don't even offer it. This makes us anomalous in the Western world. And with subjects such as computer science, the situation is not documented and surely much worse. In response to this, you would think that states would be ramping up the production of teachers in the STEM disciplines, but actually what's happening across the country is that the production of teachers overall is dropping. And it's dropping rather rapidly in all the states that produce the most teachers. Texas is actually producing the most, but it's falling. You'd think California would be ahead, but they're not. They're number 3 after New York. Wisconsin, I tried to do my best at assembling the numbers of STEM teachers produced in Wisconsin up to the latest data that I could obtain, and it's actually holding fairly constant, but particularly if you look at disciplines such as computer science or physics, where the shortages are the greatest, you'll find that production is only in rare cases enough to meet what the schools would demand. And districts across the country complain that it's very difficult to hire people in the areas which they think are most important for the future of the students in the STEM disciplines. It's partly because of this that we began to expand UTeach. There are many beliefs around the country that are counterproductive in this effort. For example, faculty widely believe that students are not interested in teaching, but students don't believe the same thing if you ask them. I worked on a study with the American Physical Society. We looked across all of the highest need STEM disciplines, just asking students, would you be interested in pursuing teaching if you had a chance to do it along with your degree? And the results vary from discipline to discipline. Math students most interested and CS least interested. But half of students typically would consider teaching if they had a way to do it. So one of the easiest things to do that we found in this study actually is just convince faculty to stop talking students out of it. And actually the most effective thing they could do was just to talk about it, even if it was negative. Even if they mentioned teaching as something that they didn't like, that had a bigger effect on getting students to look into it than if they didn't mention it at all. At the universities where we've operated, And this is the first group that entered with our first cohort starting around 2007. We've succeeded in increasing the number of teachers that we did produce. We'd like to think that there's a question of quality too, and I spoke to that earlier. But to begin with, we just try to get the numbers up, and that's something that we've worked at university after university to do. There are more things here than I can talk about in detail, but we can make the case that this is a very cost-effective way to prepare teachers, and it's a very good investment for a state. If you look at the amount of tax revenue you expect from a STEM graduate and make extremely conservative assumptions about what increasing the number of teachers will do, then you can make the case that overall a state can expect a huge return on its investment for producing more teachers, and that there isn't a more cost-effective way to do this than to help universities take the students they already have and simply embed it within the degrees that they're already going to complete. This is the current map, the current UTeach community. And something that I'd like to say is that this is just, it's just wonderful to be every now in a room with all of the faculty here. What we've managed to do is to find a lot of the faculty at universities around the country who've been turned on to the possibility of working to help improve STEM education in their community and their state, but who felt frustrated because there just wasn't a way to do it. We've gotten all of these people together. We've developed a program that is practical and economical and viable at university after university, and we've allowed them to be turned loose in their own communities and universities to do the good work that they are able to do. That, in a way, is the story of this national replication. It's not really that Texas was so good at talking other places into doing what Texas did. It's that we met a need at our own community, and we found that other communities had that need too, and we're all working on this together. So if Wisconsin, and there's already one place in Wisconsin that's doing a UTeach program at River Falls, and if any other universities are interested, the key thing is to have a dialogue about what the needs of the community and the university are. Our goal is not to come in and impose something. Our goal is to provide support so that people can do things they've wanted to do for a very long time and are able to achieve those goals. I won't discuss in any detail the precise enrollment numbers at all the different universities, but we have them. We have tons of data on these things. And this is the nationwide enrollment, which is approaching 7,000 students enrolled at various UTeach programs across the country. Graduate production is still rapidly climbing because we've had cohort after cohort entering. We're currently at about 600, and we're going to try to get to between 1,500 and 2,000 teachers within the next several years. Total number of students we expect to impact will be in the millions, and we hope that number will become even larger. So I'll stop here. I would be very glad to take questions and to see what the things are that might interest you about becoming part of the UTeach community.
We also have a lot of literature we brought along. We'll leave behind. So if you can't make out these slides, you can probably see them in the various handouts we're leaving behind. But thank you very much for
I
your
very
interest
much
in this
appreciate.
program.
I very much appreciate it. I'm sure we've got some questions. I have a rather prosaic question, but let me start with my prosaic question. You talked about the initiation in attracting people to teaching, and you talked about taking them into the elementary. Explain why it is more effective to do that with these prospective teachers than it is to where they will possibly end up teaching.
Well, there probably are a number of reasons, but one of the reasons I thought it was a great idea was because personally I'd had that experience when my daughter was small, and I thought it was the best teaching experience I'd ever had. But also, you know, these are if they take them as freshmen, these are young people. They're just a few months older than the high school students, and so it might be a little bit daunting to put them into a high school classroom to try it out, but into an elementary school classroom where they can go and be the experts talking about science and math. They would go in pairs, and they would be guided first by the master teachers. So they're prepared. They go in with great preparation about a science or math lesson that they're going to provide. the teacher in the classroom is ready for them and accepts them and gives them also feedback. So it's in a very controlled and supportive environment. They go out and have, we hope, a very good experience and then come back. So an elementary is a very easy place for them to start and a very positive one. The next semester then goes to middle school, which is a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, one of the things, we're dealing with two things: preparation, what's happening with preparation, but also all of us are dealing with attracting a market.
Yes.
And I think that is, I thought that was quite insightful when I heard you say
One of the things we're doing in Maryland, Regina, is we're actually trying to get the state to support using this first experience like this as a way to attract others to teaching. So even beyond the people, the students enrolled in our major universities, even people who are just considering, maybe veterans, maybe anybody, giving them this kind of controlled, supported experience to try teaching. It's a great way to recruit teachers.
I hadn't thought of that. Regent Clark.
Good work, really good work for, our nation, actually. Question, my big issue is, Vice President Henderson is known as math readiness in some of our schools. And so I see all the STEM focus. Will a teacher that comes out of this UTeach program I don't even know exactly how it happens, but the words I would use is be certified to teach math then in the high schools?
So approximately half of the students come out are certified to teach mathematics. The other half are certified in various areas of science. And a lot of the strongest learning gains that we were able to document were for low-income and underrepresented minority students in mathematics. Furthermore, our teachers are often ones who will be able to teach advanced mathematics classes such as calculus or AP calculus at schools that hadn't even offered it before. So our math students are particularly good at assisting with mathematics, and that's critical because mathematics is really the gateway to post-secondary readiness.
Agreed. So
I think another thing about these students, they come out as with such a strong science and math in addition to this pedagogy training. In order to really teach effectively with project-based instruction or inquiry, you have to really know the discipline and understand how to structure a project so that learning goals are met. So these are really extraordinary teachers. They're wonderful.
So we've got a pilot going at River Falls, is that what it is?
So faculty at River Falls heard about the UTeach program. They wanted to focus on a post-baccalaureate pathway, which is not our primary model, but they've actually in some ways provided a national model for a standalone post-baccalaureate version of this. They have adapted the courses so that it fits within that context, and we remain in very close communication with them. It's a very interesting offshoot of the primary undergraduate program that we've spread around the nation.
Are there next steps, though, from our perspective?
Just one moment, and we'll speak to that in just a moment. You had a question, comment?
Yeah, just one question. Can you describe any obstacles or hurdles that you've confronted in implementing this program, things that we could learn from?
Well, when it began, the College of Education wasn't as positive about it as they finally became. And it was partly our fault. We started it, and there was a little newspaper article that made it sound like we were taking over science and math certification, which we didn't intend to, and stuff like that. So that has been a problem some places, but another major obstacle, and Michael can speak to this better, is some of the state regulations don't fit the programming. And so we've had to go in where there were replication sites in states where the rules were really different and try to modify those. And we've been successful with it. But
So a complete discussion of all the obstacles would take a really long time. So let me just say that one of the great things about having a national community is that every obstacle you can imagine, and then 10 times more you can't, someone has already experienced them, and we're all working together on solving them. And this is, as I said, it would take a very long time to discuss all of them, but we're problem solvers, and we work together.
another one that's very common is, I think it at the time we started UTeach, it was expected that a major research one university, students at that kind of a university would not be interested in teaching, and that we wouldn't be able to produce this. And that just, as Michael said, it just wasn't true. But I mean, I made a presentation for a bunch of deans of science and I guess arts and sciences at at an AAU meeting once, and the dean from Berkeley said, well, we just do this. But Berkeley became one of our first sites and one of our now very successful sites. So that was kind of an obstacle, but it really disappeared.
You ask about what the progress. You'll remember that at our last meeting, we had representatives from DPI to talk about the changes in licensing. This gives us an opportunity to see what is happening at other universities UTeach. Our plan at our next meeting is to have our provosts join us to talk to us about some of the issues involved and some of the approaches they're taking. At the following meeting, we're going to invite certain amounts of our deans or our heads of departments of education to talk to us about some of their initiatives that they're taking to deal with some of the issues and where they are. So what we're trying to do is a step-by-step analysis of what's existing within the state legally, what's existing outside of the state, what we are doing within our system itself, both from the provost and the heads of the education department, and then we're going to be deciding to make some steps forward. Because what we're dealing with, as we said, is two things. What's happening in preparation of our students to be teachers in K through 12 public education, but also what's happening within the market. And I heard something new that I hadn't heard before, and that's enticing someone by bringing them in and letting them know what it feels like in a comfortable environment to be a teacher. So that's what our plan is for the balance of this year, and then we'll be making some steps going forward. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Just a quick comment.
Yes.
And I don't want to go to the obstacles, but thank you so much for your presentation and good data. But I think what we have to always keep at the top of our minds is what problem are we exactly solving here? And this may be an answer to that, but we also have to figure out what that is. And I think that's really critical. So I think the most important thing from my vantage point, and I'm a science major, and I was a science teacher, but I did the UW River Falls way of doing it. It became a master's degree effort. But if we do anything different, I think when you talk, and this can be done in any system, frankly, is having our STEM faculty, no matter where they're located, start to talk about teaching being a productive, rewarding career. And I think that's critical. I mean, we need folks that are within the university system, no matter what system we're in, whether it's UTeach or any other thing, to recognize that it's a career with dignity and importance, and I think that would be a huge step forward.
If I could follow up on that, I think that the image of having the dean of the College of Natural Sciences and a distinguished physics professor leading the effort to tell students in the college, this is a great career, is invaluable. And I'll just tell you that from my experience being in math departments, as I try to talk to students about teaching, my colleagues would really put that idea down and say, oh, you don't want to do that, you know. And the other, when I was at the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs, there was one student in the entire state of Colorado who was seeking licensure to teach physics in the state. And after 1 year, he dropped out, saying because of the environment in the physics department, it was not supportive. This was Mr. Reyes. And so having a Hispanic physics teacher in Colorado was really special. and he was turned away. And so I think the leadership that these two folks have really exhibited in showing that being a STEM teacher is really a good path forward for really good students at a place like UT Austin is invaluable. And so that's part of what I think also is part of the culture, as you said, Regent Evers.
Very good. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, thank you again very much. We very much